Welcome to the Meeple Society. My name is Katy. Today we are going to learn the 1 to 4 player game of Role Player. After I've gone through the basic rules for this one, I am going to show you the first expansion, Monsters and Minions, which actually adds a 5th player. And then we're going to follow that up with a brief description of Fiends and Familiars. So your base game is going to come with a total of 6 different character sheets that you can use. It's also going to come with initiative cards, player color cubes. These are for tracking purposes. You're going to have all your market cards, both level 1 and 2, player aid cards, your class cards, your backstory, so basically your character's background, your alignment cards and charisma tokens, and then a total of 73 dice. To start the game out, each player is going to roll 1 dice. Player with the highest roll is the start player. Beginning with the start player, each player is going to choose a character sheet amongst the 6 that come with it. Each character sheet has both a female as well as a male side. So you're going to choose your character sheet, choose your side. This is where your character is going to evolve throughout the game. Throughout setup, you're going to choose an alignment, a class, and a backstory. Each of your attributes here are eventually going to be filled in with all of the dice that you will attain throughout the game. Each attribute gives you a special power, and depending on your race, each attribute gives you bonuses or negatives as well. So for instance, the elf gets a +2 in dex, but a -2 in con. These bonuses are literally the only thing different from character to character. For instance, the dwarf has a +2 in con, but a -2 in charisma. But all of the special abilities that each of the attributes gives you is exactly the same from character to character, as well as from male to female. After you've chosen your characters, then each player is going to receive 5 gold. If there are 3 or 4 players, then the 3rd player would receive 1 additional gold. If there's a 4th player, the 4th player receives 2 additional golds. Beginning with the start player, again, proceeding clockwise around the table, everybody takes 1 random die from the bag, and this determines your color, except for gold. Gold doesn't work. I get another gold. So this matters. Of course, you can't repeat colors. This matters when picking your class. There are 12 different classes. Each pair of classes is represented by the color of the dice that you choose. So for instance, with red, I would choose from either the warrior or the barbarian. For purple, I would choose from either the monk or the bard. If I draw a blue, I have a choice of a wizard or a sorcerer. Green is druid or ranger. The black is the thief or the rogue, and the white is the paladin or the cleric. So once you've got your color, you take your card, you choose your class. So for instance, with the barbarian has a ability of powerful. Powerful says that he can equip up to 4 hands worth of weapons. As with any type of dungeon crawl or role-playing game, you can usually only equip 2. The barbarian is allowed to equip up to 4. If I go with warrior, warrior is prepared. After buying an armor card, I may take a constitution attribute action. I will explain the attribute actions as well as some of the cards here in a few minutes. Each of the class cards outlines each of your attribute skills here on the side. It shows you the goal number you're trying to get to with the dice that you're going to claim throughout the game. And it shows you the victory points that you will get if you manage to hit those goals. Choose your class. From there, we go to the backstories. Shuffle up their backstories. Each person takes 1 backstory. Same thing with the alignment cards. Each person gets 1 alignment card, and then each player gets 1 of the play sequence cards. Now, the play sequence cards will basically just outline how all your turns, just like any sequence card would. So that's those. Alignment cards indicate the character's personality, the attitude toward the world, and its inhabitants. Each of these cards has 9 squares on it. One of your tracking cubes is actually going to go onto the middle square at the beginning of the game. And then throughout the game, it's going to move either up or down or left or right. And you get victory points at the end of the game based on the square it ends on. So with Protector, if I can get it up to the top middle square, I'm going to get 3 points at the end of the game. However, if I end on the bottom middle square, I'm going to lose 3 points at the end of the game. So you stick your alignment there. The backstory cards, these reveal secrets about the character's past. This is just a little bit of flavor text and then some victory point options down here at the bottom. The important part of this card is this piece here. So it lists again your 6 attribute scores. It also shows different colors indicating dice colors in different positions on the board. So for example, if I were to take Savant and I put it on my board like so, then at the end of the game, I want to try to make sure that in order to get maximum points, that I end the game with a red dice here, a green die here, a blue die in this position, a white die here, a black die here, and a purple die there. Doesn't matter what the numbers are, as long as my game ends with the dice in the same positions as it's shown on the backstory card, then I'm going to get 6 points. If only 4 or 5 of my dice are lined up, so maybe I ended with the purple there instead, then I would get 3 points. But if only 2 to 3 of my dice line up, then I only get 1 point. So now let me show you how you get dice. This is basically how you set up your player card. You're going to stick your class color there to remind everybody what class color you are. And you're going to stick your other cube on the middle square of your alignment card. You're going to set out initiative cards based on the number of players. Up in the corner, it tells you how many players these work for. So for example, for a 2-player game, I'm going to use these 3 cards that all indicate 2-player up in the corner. If I have a 4-player game, then I'm going to use, or a 3-player game, then I'm going to use these 4 cards. Turn to the 2+ or 3+ player side. If I have a 4-player game, then I'm going to use all 5 of these cards. Some of the cards have money symbols up in the corner. Usually it's going to be the middle cards that have it. The first card available won't have it. The last card available won't have it, but everything in the middle will. So if I only have a 3-player game, I'm using this side. So it's only going to be the middle 2 that'll have it. But you always have 1 more card out than you do the number of players. So for a 2-player game, this is my setup. I'm going to put these out in the middle of the table. Market cards come in 2 different levels. You have your level 1 cards indicated by the 1 single dot underneath the cost. And you have your level 2 cards indicated by the 2 dots underneath the cost. You're going to sort all your cards out by the level. In a 2-player game, you're going to shuffle them up and take 7 cards right off the top of each stack. For a 3 or 4-player game, you're going to use them all. So you're going to stick your level 2s on the bottom of the stack. You're going to stick your level 1s on top of those and then place them in the middle of the table. You are going to deal out cards equal to the number of players plus 1 into the market. Okay. Stick your charisma tokens off to the side. Charisma tokens, you obtain these from taking a charisma action. Again, I'll come back to that. So just stick those off to the side. We'll stick them over here along with your excess coins. Start off by putting gold on each of the cards as indicated. And then each player, starting with the first player, draws out dice from the bag equal to the number of players plus 4. So for a 2-player game, each player is going to draw out 6 dice from the bag randomly. For a 3-player game, you're going to draw 7 out. And for a 4-player game, you're going to draw 8. So for my 2-player game, We'll draw 6 dice out, and then you're going to roll those separately and put them into your character sheet exactly like you rolled them. Now let me explain how the character sheets work. Ultimately, your goal is to get each of these rows at the number indicated on your backstory, taking into account your pluses and your minuses from your race. So for instance, if this was my roll, gosh, the only thing I want in the first row is a purple, and I don't have any purple. So I'm going to try to avoid my charisma right now. But first, before we go into how to place the dice, let me explain what each of the attributes do. So for instance, the strength attribute, if I place a dice into strength, then I can take any other dice on my board and flip it over, including the dice I just placed. So maybe I want to place this 1 here. That allows me to take this dice and flip it over completely. If I place a dice into dex, then I can take any 2 dice on my board in any position and swap them around. If I place a die into con, then I can take any die on my board and increase the number on it by 1 or decrease it by 1. If I place a die into initiative, then I can take any die on my board and re-roll it and then put it back in with the new number. If I place a die into wisdom, I get to adjust my alignment any direction by 1, either up, down, left, or right. So in this case, of course, I'm going to want to go up. And finally, if I put a die into charisma, I get to take a charisma token. So I get to take one of these. These tokens during the market phase give you a $1 discount on any market card. When you're placing dice, the main rules when you're placing dice, you have to place in the leftmost column. You cannot, like for instance, I cannot just decide to place a green here because that's where I need it. I have to work up to that. I have to start in the leftmost column and work across. Anytime that you get to your 3rd dice in any attribute and you place into the square that's circled by the gold rim, then you get 1 gold. All of that being said, none of these attribute abilities count during your initial placement of the 6 dice. So these dice would have had to have been placed exactly as I rolled them and then left that way. Now, after your first 6 dice are placed, and you do not have to place 1 in each row, you can place them wherever you wish. So I could have done this if I wanted to, or put 2 down here, initiative, or after your first 6 are done, the start player would pull out 1 die for every initiative card, roll them, and then place them in numeric order on the cards. If I had rolled, say, 2 6s, then I could choose which one goes where. Then the start player picks the dice that they want. They take the dice and the initiative card. If they take the 2, they take the money on the card. So for instance, I really want this purple, so I'm going to take this purple. Then my other player would take the card they want. So say they take this guy and add to their money. Then you go to the market phase. During the market phase, you go in initiative order. I have initiative 3. My opponent has an initiative 2, so they would get to go first during the market phase. During the market phase, you have 2 options. You can either purchase any one of the cards, or you can discard a card and get 2 gold. There are a number of different options on cards. So for example, there are weapon cards. Weapon cards provide ongoing abilities or bonuses to each character. Each weapon card features the icon showing whether it is 1-hand or 2-handed. It also gives you an ability here in the middle. So for instance, the Blessed Mace says when any player discards a card from the market, this player gains 1 gold. Armor cards come in sets. So these are 2 different sets. This is a set that is for either purple or black. This is a set for red or white. You do not have to be the red or white character to pick this up. You just get a bonus at the end of the game if you are. You get reputation stars or experience points at the end of the game based on the number you collect out of this set. So for instance, if you manage to get all 4 of this set, you're going to get 8 points at the end of the game. But if this is the only one you manage to pick up, by the end of the game, you're only going to get 1. Skill cards give a character a special ability to use during the game, and when used, adjust the character's alignment. This is open lock. This one, anytime I use this skill, I have to move my token down. However, understand that if you can't, so say this is, I'm already here, I can't use this skill because I'm not able to move my alignment token down. I would have to do something to get it up first before I would be able to use this skill again. Trait cards adjust a character's alignment when you buy them, and the player earns reputation stars if they meet the criteria on the card by the end of the game. So for example, this one, when I purchase it, I have to move my alignment indicator 1 spot to the left. At the end of the game, I gain one reputation star or experience point for each skill card that I have. So again, after everybody's placed their dice, you do the market phase. Again, you can either choose a card and purchase it, paying your gold for it, or you can take and you can discard a card, throw it into a discard pile, and then gain 2 gold for discarding that card. And then the next player in initiative order would do the same thing. That is the basic overview of a round. At the end of the game, you're going to score your boards. You're going to take the play sequence card that you received at the beginning of the game. You're going to flip it over, and that is your scoreboard. Take your player marker off of your character card. So you're going to score your attribute goals. So depending on where your marker ended up on this card will determine how many points you get. So for instance, if I ended up here, I get 1 victory point or 1 reputation point. Then you are going to score your attribute goals. Now your attribute goals, again, here are listed here on your character card. So for instance, my strength, I want my attribute to be an 18. I have an 18, so I get 4 points. I want my dex to be between a 16 and a 17. I don't have any bonuses. I only have a 12, so I didn't make that one. Then I look at my backstory dice. I wanted a red here. I wanted a green here. I didn't get that one. I wanted a blue, a white, a black, and a purple. So I managed to get all but one, all but this guy here. So I get 3 points for that. I also get 1 point for every die in my class color. So I would get 2 points for that. I would score any cards I managed to pick up. So my armor card. So if this was the only one of this set I managed to pick up, I would get 1 additional point. If I picked up any trait cards that gave me bonuses, I would get those. Add all that together to come up with your final score. Player with the highest points wins the game. All right, so that is the base game of Role Player. I'm also going to touch on the Monsters and Minion expansion. Monsters and Minions adds more of what you already love about the base game. It adds more character cards. It adds more gold. It adds more charisma tokens. It adds more market cards to choose from that you're going to add to your stacks. It adds more dice because now you're playing with a 5th player. It actually adds what they call boost dice. Boost dice don't go from 1 to 6 like a normal die. No, they go from 3 to 8. So it enables you to take your character up just a couple more notches. So you're going to add those to your bag as well. It adds new alignments that you can choose from or play with. It adds more backstory cards. It also adds more class cards that you can choose from. With more players, it adds more initiative cards. It gives you a new play tracker and reputation tracker for the end of the game. It also adds the concept of temporary experience that you can spend to do various things throughout the game. And of course, it comes with monsters and minions. Minion cards are fought throughout the game. This is an alternative option to doing the market cards. So if you decide you don't want something from the market, you can instead fight a minion. Minions are fought using attack dice. You get another set of dice. These do not go in the bag. These are earned with various things off your player sheet. So for example, this kobold says I get 1 combat dice for each dice in my dex attribute row. So you would look at your attribute row on your player board, and that's how many dice, how many bonus dice you get. You always get at least 1. So if this was toward the end of the game and I'd already filled my dex row, then I would get 3 more to add to my roll. Then I would roll those dice and match my score up. So for this case, I would get a 10 or better. So I would get 3 experience tokens and I would get 1 honor token. Honor tokens are kept throughout the game and they give you pluses at the end of the game when you're fighting the big monster. They also could potentially give you injury tokens. So if I only rolled a 1 through 6, I would have gotten an injury token instead. Injury tokens take away points at the end of the game if you still have them. And then, of course, the experience cubes. Experience cubes are used throughout the game to purchase things or to buy off injury tokens. These are placed face down. The top card is turned up. And this is the monster, this is the minion that is available to fight during the market phase. If the person who has decided to fight this minion reaches an area that says they get a trophy, they get to keep this card and gain everything that is indicated. If, for instance, I'd only rolled a 1 through 6, then the kobold runs away, you put him on the bottom of the deck and you flip over the next card for somebody else. And then the next person in initiative order would have the opportunity to fight the dire wolf instead. At the beginning of the game, you're going to choose 1 monster from the deck. It cannot be the same color as one of your players. It has to be one of the alternative colors. So if we were playing the red and purple, I would have to immediately take those out of the game and I would have to choose from one of the 4 others. Say we chose the Kraken. Each of these have a special ability that will come into play at the end of the game. For instance, this one says that after the final dice, after all rolling is done, you can no longer spend experience points to re-roll. Then you remove all pairs of 6s. So hopefully you don't roll a lot of 6s when you're fighting the Kraken. And then everybody adds up their points. That's how many experience points they get. The person who rolls the highest, who does the most amount of damage toward him, gets extra points. Now, to get combat dice on this one, of course, you're always going to get your standard 1. However, throughout the game, as you fight minions, remember how this one had the trophy on it? Whenever you are able to collect a minion that has the trophy on it, you get to look at one of the 3 cards that were placed out. The game also comes with what they call adventure tokens. These are in the initials of L, O, and A for location, attack, and obstacle. So the first one is location. The first trophy that I'm able to garner, I get to look at the location 1. This one states that all players with 4 or fewer dice in their class color on their character sheet gains 1 extra combat dice. So if I only had 2 class color dice on my sheet, then I would gain an extra die to fight the Kraken at the end of the game. I would gain my L adventure token to show that I could look at this at any time I wanted. When I'm able to gain my second trophy for fighting a monster, then I get to look at the O. And then when you get your third one, you get to look at the attack one. You get to collect your A, You look at the attack, and this one says all players who met their strength attribute goal gain 3 combat dice. Well, gosh, I met my strength one, so I get 3 dice to add to my pool. Once everybody has collected the dice, of course, you always get your free one. Everybody rolls. You can re-roll dice based on using any experience tokens that you might still have. After everybody's dice are final, then you do what the Kraken says, remove all pairs of dice. I would have to remove those 2 if I didn't re-roll them. So I would be left with a 14. In this case, I get 1 victory point for it, and that's it. Now, the game comes with a set of 3 of each of the cards for each of the monsters. So there's some variability there. So you can change them up and play different cards each time you play each monster. That is a very brief overview of Monsters and Minions. I'm also going to do a very brief overview of Fiends and Familiars. Similar to Monsters and Minions, Fiends and Familiars offers even more of what you already love, adding, again, more characters, more monsters, more market cards, more minions to fight, more backstories to choose from, more alignments to choose from, more charisma tokens, more gold, more adventure tokens, more honor tokens, more injury tokens, more experience cubes, and lots more dice, more combat dice, and a new dice called split dice. The split dice are by color. So this is a black and a white. They range from 2 pips. Where'd it go? No, I'm sorry. They range from 1 pip to 4 pips. So there's black and white, there's black and purple, there's red and white, there's all different colors. For the purpose of your backstory, these count for either color. You also get new play sequence cards, which again, flip over to become your experience points or your reputation points. But these ones outline some of the new abilities. You also get new cards that show you how to spend gold or XP, or how to gain gold, because now you can spend gold to get rid of your fiend cards too, or spend gold or charisma tokens to get rid of your fiend cards. Fiend cards, the crust of Fiends and Familiars, start with the fiends. The fiend cards offer, well, little troublemakers that go on to the last 1 or 2 of the new initiative cards that you get. So you're going to choose your initiative cards based again on the number of players. So for example, this card is used regardless. This is always the very last card that is in the initiative order. And this person always goes last. But you can see where you place a fiend card at the bottom to finish off the card. And then you choose your other cards depending on the number of players, anywhere from 1 to 5 players. This being your 6th if you have a full 5-player game. Depending on the number of players will determine how many fiend cards are out. If you only have 2 players, then you're only going to have 1 fiend card out. But if you have 3 players, you're going to have two out each round. The fiends do different things. They give you obstacles you have to overcome. For instance, this one is the Fiend of Tuition. At the start of the market phase, you lose 1 gold. Or the Fiend of Blight. When you go on a hunt, gain 1 injury token. Or the Fiend of Duress. In the market phase, you must go on a hunt. You don't have a choice. These new ones are placed out when you take that Inish card. So you're going to take the die that's sitting on this one, that when you take the dice off of the Inish number 4, you get this fiend with it. And then from then on, that fiend's obstacle applies to you only until you can banish the fiend. You can banish the fiend in a couple of different ways. There are some character powers that let you do it, or you can spend 5 gold or 1 charisma token to do it as well. The other piece of this game is the familiars. The familiars, this one comes with, gosh, a lot of familiars to choose from. The familiars have special powers. So for instance, this one is the Cursed Raven. To get 2 victory points, you want to have your power in this one somewhere between a 7 and an 8. If you manage to line up your dice in the red, black, blue color scheme, then that's how many points you will get based on how many of them you were able to line up. Each friend comes with some sort of special power. For instance, the Cursed Raven comes with Haunted. Haunted states that when you place a die on the Cursed Raven, you may discard one of your market cards to take any attribute action. Here's a Shadow Drake that says that when you place a die on the Shadow Drake, you gain 3 gold or 2 XP. So these all have different powers, all different color combinations they want, or power combinations, power totals that they want. But these go onto basically the top of your board, and they become an extension of your board. So now you're obtaining 3 new dice throughout the game. Rather than extend the game by 3 extra rounds, instead, you're going to use this setup card. And this will tell you exactly, depending on which expansions you're using, whether you're using just Fiends and Familiars or whether you're using Monsters and Minions as well. It'll tell you how to set up your market deck. It'll tell you exactly how many of the level 1 market cards to discard, depending on how many expansions you're playing with and how many players you have. And then it tells you to insert this card into a specific position based again on your player count. So for a 2-player game, if I'm playing with both expansions, I'm going to discard 40 cards off the top of my market deck. And then I'm going to count out another 15 cards and place this card under it. Up until the time this card is pulled out of that deck, I'm actually going to roll 2 dice per initiative. So for the first how many of a round, in a 2-player game, I'm going to start by rolling 6 dice, not just 3. I'm going to roll them just like normal. I'm going to put them out lowest to highest on the initiative cards, and then I'm going to choose which one I want. If I take this, the last one with the 2 6s, I also get this fiend, and I have to deal with him. So you're going to take whichever dice you want. You're going to take your initiative card. You're going to place these wherever you want to place them. However, you're only going to take one of the 2 attribute bonuses. You're not going to get them both. When this card is pulled out of the deck, set it aside, replace the market card as normal. From then on, you only roll 1 die per card. So you would go back to rolling just 3 dice in a 2-player game. And that's how you finish out the game. At that point, you start taking your attribute bonuses just like normal, or your attribute actions just like normal. Okay, that was a super fast explanation of Fiends and Familiars. I know I tend to ramble a lot when I do rules breakdowns. I tried really hard not to do that this time, but we'll see how that goes. So if you actually want to see us play through this game and hopefully cover a few rules I probably missed, I'm sure I did, then stick around. We're going to do a 4-player playthrough for you. As always, if you found this at all helpful, and I sure hope you did, then please like the video for us and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon if you want notifications of future content. As always, from those of us at the Meeple Society, we'll catch you next time.